Good evening, everybody. Aston Villa have closed the gap to third place to just 3 points, heading into the final 6 Premier League games of this season. It's been a fantastic run of form that Villa have been on in the Premier League, winning 4 games in a row for the first time in 2 years since they did it in Emery's first season, when they went on that long run of form to get into the Europa Conference League. That's something that Villa have had to do up until now, and hopefully that continues in the final weeks of the season. And I'll talk about squad depth later. We're obviously working on a few different fronts: the Premier League, FA Cup and European football, but it was back then only the Premier League that Villa were playing in at the time. And Unai Emery said in his pre-match press conference that he was working with 12, 13, 14 players who were, kind of viable options. You got a first 11 and a couple of subs. Now that's completely different. Damien Vidagani tweeting tonight saying that we have 22 starters, and obviously Villa have even some more players that they can call on, and some players aren't making the squad because it's just full. The squad is full. It's littered with talent, and you can make 4 changes like they did today, or 8, and Villa would have won that game against Southampton. What I would say, however, Youri Tielemans and Morgan Rogers, who have started the vast majority of games, Tielemans starting all of Villa's Premier League, FA Cup and Champions League matches. Rogers missed the Leicester game because of a suspension when Villa won 2-1 back in start of January. But it was his ball that carved open that Southampton defence. Fantastic finish from Watkins, don't get me wrong, but it's moments like that where you appreciate that even with a lot of quality in the pitch, this is why Tielemans is probably going to be Villa's player of the season. Morgan Rogers assisting Marlin for Villa's second of the night. Definitely, I think, the kind of competitor for Tielemans for player of the season. And it's not done yet. Of course it's not done yet. There's so much more excitement to be had in this campaign, and that mantle is still up for grabs, as it were. But kind of back to the game, Villa have so much quality, but I just wanted to kind of isolate those 2 players to start, because they've played so much in this season, which for me anyway has gone really quickly. But then you look at how many contributions Rogers and Watkins have had in terms of goals. Is it 51 now? Combined, and you think, wow, actually this has been a very long campaign, so many games that have been played. But Villa, I say that, for example, last season they were running empty and they were leggy, and they got over the line in the Premier League just about. This time it feels completely different. It feels like they're fresh, and well, no, you wouldn't say they are fresh, but they're certainly playing in a way in which you wouldn't have thought. This is 6 games before the end of the league season, with how many Champions League games that they've played already. Quarter-final of Champions League's coming in a few days, and FA Cup semi-final. A lot is going on, but today it was all about the 3 points. That's going to be the same for when you play Newcastle City and Fulham, Bournemouth and Man United and Spurs, of course. Southampton are one of the worst teams in Premier League history, no doubt about it. And really, I think when Asensio missed his first penalty, quite a lot of fans probably thought, is it going to be one of those days? But as I mentioned, Southampton, they're simply not at this level, with all due respect, and I'm sure they probably agree with themselves. And the table doesn't lie, it never does. And in the end, Villa come out comfortable winners. And what I would say is, before those changes were made, it didn't look like it was going that way. But equally, without changes, perhaps Villa get over the line anyway with a bit of quality. And it was Watkins who came off the bench for Rashford, won a penalty. Asensio steps up, misses. Asensio hasn't actually taken that many penalties in his career, so no kind of, how do I put it? I mean, obviously a surprise to see him miss 2 penalties. Any player can miss 1. But what I would say is that Rashford is clearly the number 1 taker. That was always going to be the case when he joined. He had a 90% conversion rate, I think. I did the numbers, can't remember the stats off the top of my head. Whereas Asensio had only taken a handful in his career. So yeah, Rashford is the number 1 taker, and we saw that against Preston. Brilliant penalty. And Emery, after the game, mentioned that Rashford is the number 1 shooter for the penalties. Then it's Asensio, and then third, McGinn, Tielemans, Watkins. One of them will take the pen. The second penalty, however, which was won by John McGinn, 93rd minute. McGinn coming off the bench, winning a penalty. Of course, scoring the rebound, but again taken by Asensio, and Emery was fine with that. No issue with stepping up again, and although he missed the first one, he said, well, it's kind of his challenge then to score, which I get. I think it's a completely different narrative. Some people maybe, I don't know, not annoyed because you win the game 3-0, and essentially it's been a big part of this revival, so no one's going to hold a grudge, but maybe with some sections of the fan base maybe thinking, oh well, Watkins needed to take that because he's close to breaking Gabbage record, something like that. But I think the narrative would be different if Resensive scored. It would be, oh, that shows he's got courage and it shows his character, he's a winner, he's got experience and he wants to rectify his errors straight away. So yeah, there's different ways of looking at it. The game was obviously won at that point as well. So Watkins scoring Villa's first goal, coming off the bench with Marlin scoring the second goal, Tielemans' assist, Rogers' assist, McGinn winning a penalty, then scoring his first league goal of the season. So again, it just speaks to the depth that Villa have in their team. It's ridiculous, to be honest. I actually asked Emery after the game, or do you think Villa's depth is among the best in the Premier League, or the best in the Premier League even? He was never going to say yes, I don't think, and he didn't. But he did mention, and it's an interesting point, one that I think is easy to look over because it's almost so obvious. And he said that, well, actually, injuries and availability of players, that's the key thing, and every club has depth. Man City, of course, he didn't say this, but City have depth, although in a different way with youngsters. Chelsea have lots of depth, obviously, other teams too, but if you have a few injuries, all of a sudden that does decrease your ability to swap players, and if your left back is out of form, well, there's nothing you can do about that. That's an out of form player that you can't change. So Villa don't have that trouble at the moment, because they don't have any injuries, which is fantastic. Obviously Bailey, you would class as an injury, I suppose, but even if he was fully fit today, would he get in the squad? I don't think he would have. Who would he be ahead of? None of those players. It would be wrong to bring him in, I think. Same goes with Barkley. You need to earn your place back in the squad and wait for your opportunity, essentially, and that hasn't arrived for those players yet. I'm sure it will at some point. But for now, Villa have a very bulky squad, and it's all about competition for places. Emery, again, pre-match press conference, some really good quotes and insights suggesting that some players are angry with their game time, which, yeah, I mean, look, this is professional football and elite level football. Every player wants to be playing every minute of every game, but it doesn't work like that. And he said that some players are making faces at him. Obviously no suggestion of who those players are, but you could take a guess. Some players have been playing a lot of football under Emery and all of a sudden have been playing less. One of those players would be Ollie Watkins, but he responds in a perfect way to score his goal, breaking the deadlock. And yeah, a good bit of research, I suppose, from Matt Law pointing out, I can't remember exactly the numbers, I think it was 13 of the 15 goals he scored this season, Watkins have either drawn a Villa level or put them in front, which is the perfect statistic to sum up how important Ollie Watkins is. I tweeted myself saying Ollie Watkins scores goals, pretty simple, but then I was going to add, and does also a lot of other things too. So he's not just a goal scorer, we all know that. In fact, everything that he provides around scoring goals is equally important, you'd say, or even in some cases more important. They'll have players who can bag if Watkins isn't, because the kind of criticism that's aimed at him all the time is, well, he doesn't score this chance, and he didn't score twice today when he should have, but he still ends up with mid-double figures, kind of mid-tens to 20 goals a season. Obviously he's probably not going to break that 20 mark this season like he came so close to last term, but goals have been shared out more so in this campaign, which is good for Watkins as well, you'd have to say that. Takes the pressure off him, and his goal today was fantastic, one of the best goals he's scored in a Villa shirt for sure. He said after the game one of his favourites, which is obviously great. Obviously going to be doing his confidence the world of good as well. I love his celebration too, kind of pointing to the ground. He's here, this is his territory, not St Mary's, but scoring goals for Aston Villa, and you'll love to see that. Daniel Marlin coming off the bench and obviously getting his goal as well. Another goal, that's now 3 goals in less than 90 minutes, I believe, over the course of games against Brighton and who else did he score against? Come on, John, think. Nottingham Forest, of course. He's very clinical in that area of the pitch on that right side. And if you see as well the chance that he had, I say a chance, it wasn't really a chance, he made the chance against Liverpool when he's cut inside, or cut on the outside actually, of his defender and then whizzes the ball just past the post. Had a perfect angle of it in the press box, and sunk in my seat, because although the Liverpool point was a really good one, wow, if that went in, it would have lifted the roof off the whole. It was the 6th minute of added time or something, and that really would have been a special moment in this season, for sure. Even just under Emery, it would have been one of the special moments of his time in charge so far. If we would have won that game, the league leaders, and in the kind of dramatic circumstances that it would have happened, but it didn't happen for Marlin. So I said so many times that actually it's been a frustrating start for him, but he's been fine. He's played well. He's been good. So yeah, there was no kind of no part of me that thought that he wouldn't find his feet and kind of get over this unlucky spell that he had in terms of having an illness and then other things not going his way, such as that Wolves goal being chalked off for a foul by Morgan Rogers, very cheap foul, of course, and illness, other things not going as a Champions League squad, setbacks that he's had to deal with. It speaks volumes of his mentality, though, of course. So already a player who feels like is becoming a fan favourite too, and I think fans can really appreciate when a player gives them kind of the the kind of energy that they want to be here and they want to fight for their shirt and they want to fight for their place, which is obviously great to see. Swap Dortmund for Villa as well. Obviously a club who's regularly playing in the Champions League, maybe not next season to be fair, but scored lots of goals for them. Top scorer for Dortmund for the last 2 seasons as well. So Villa know they've got a good asset there. Where else do I go from here? I guess I can kind of wrap up on the top 5 conversation. City winning today. They beat Palace. Palace could have been 3-0 up, but they did also cut Palace apart towards the back end of the first half and in the second period as well. Forest losing today, that for me felt like a bit of a kind of how do you put it? If Forest beat Everton, I think they'd be nearly in the top 5. The fact that they've lost to them and in the manner it happened, they're going to have to pick themselves up, and it's going to be a real test of their mettle now and test of their mentality, because that group of players obviously didn't expect to be competing for European positions, let alone for 3rd, 4th, 5th Champions League football this season, and Nuno himself would be thinking the same. I don't think it's a situation where Nottingham Forest have been found out. I think it's just confidence, and it's a couple of players that have been injured coming back into the team. They've had a wobble, and this started a few weeks ago. I think they've lost 4 out of 5 on the road. Their home form has been strong, obviously, they're 3rd, but now they're going to be really tested. So an interesting one for Forest. Chelsea, they play Ipswich. Newcastle, they play Man United. If they both win those games, then of course they'll go over Villa, but that's okay. Villa, they know if they can win their games, they'll probably finish in the Champions League, and that is harder said than done, of course. Newcastle coming up next, which is just simply a huge football match. Man City to follow, again, another huge football match. If you offered, I'm not going to play that game of would you take this and would you do this and would you do that, I'm not going to do that. But I think, put it this way, it's crucial that Villa win. They're probably going to win at least 3 of their last 4, maybe even 4, depending on how they do the next 2 of the last 4 matches. It is Fulham, it's Bournemouth, it's United and Tottenham. All those, so the last 3 clubs there, Bournemouth, United and Tottenham, may not have anything to play for. The last 2 won't, United and Tottenham, in the league at least. Bournemouth may have something to play for, but they'd have to put a good run of form together that they haven't been doing recently to be competing in those European positions again. So Villa may be going to the Vitality with their season all but done. Villa's hopefully very much alive, and I'm sure it will be, hopefully, for a Champions League position. And if you kind of work back from the Fulham at home, it's a home match against a team who is unlikely to be above Villa at the time in which they play them. Therefore, you need to win that game. And that kind of takes you to, these 2 games coming up. I've heard some people saying, you need 6 points or you need 4 points. I understand that. I don't think you need to win both games. That's the first thing I'd say. I understand every game feels like a must-win, but it's kind of a pet peeve of mine in football. What is a must-win? Do Villa have to beat Man City away from home to get Champions League? No, they don't. they can then beat Fulham and Bournemouth and then be in a situation where the 2 games remaining of the league season and they're in 5th place already. Well, if they win those 2 games, they're fine. They're there, they're home and host. So Newcastle I think is a huge game because they have games in hand, and also they feel like I don't know, to me that Newcastle feel good for a Champions League finish, but that changes if Villa beat them because that's a 6-pointer. So we'll see how that goes next week, and that is a big game. In City away, I think you take what you can on the road, but if you lose to Newcastle, well, you're probably going to have to go to the Etihad and win the game to give yourself a great chance. If not, you're going to have to win your last 4 and hope, basically. So we'll see what happens. It's going to be a really entertaining end to the campaign. Villa obviously juggling other competitions, Champions League too, and I said for a while actually that the Champions League for me is a situation where Villa have come so far in the first Champions League campaign under Unai Emery. They're only going to make improvements from here, and for that reason, anything that happened after Club Brugge would be a bonus for me. We had the moment of scoring at the Parc des Princes, and we're going to have the moment of the incredible atmosphere, crackling atmosphere at Villa Park, at the start of the game, because the tie isn't done, absolutely not. If Villa score the first goal, blown wide open, Villa could score the 90th minute to make it 1-0 on the night and have 6 minutes of chaos at the end. Bring it on, let's see what happens. Equally, they could score in the first minute, and then you have another 89 plus added time to go to take extra time or even win the tie. So yeah, for that reason the tie is definitely open still, and that's why I'm really looking forward to seeing what the atmosphere will be like at Villa Park. I'm sure it'll be absolutely fantastic. For me, that's all I wanted. I wanted the tie to be alive, so we have that as a moment at least. If the journey ends on Tuesday night, it ends on Tuesday night. This is only the start of what you'd hope is Villa's the start of Villa's European journey. That was in the Conference League, of course, the year before, but in the Champions League and the elite level of European football, this is the start, you'd hope, and that next season they're going to be in the competition again. And whatever happens on Tuesday night, I think the Newcastle game is a fresh focus. If Villa win, then, you probably make the argument that Newcastle game, your mind it won't be elsewhere, but you could allow it to a point, because I need to phrase that better. I put it this way: if Villa were to be knocked out of the Champions League, I think you attack Newcastle thinking, well, we're out of this competition, we have to get back into it, we have to win this game. If you get through PSG, I think there's less of that, in my opinion. I think it's more, we're in the semi-finals, we're in the last 4 of the Champions League. Newcastle's huge, but in the back of your mind, you've got Wembley, you've got Arsenal, Real Madrid away in the next couple of weeks, and you can, if you beat PSG, you can win the competition because you're probably just beating the best team left in it, or one of. So yeah, it's an interesting dynamic, and I obviously hope that's the situation. I want a situation where Villa are in the last 4 of the Champions League and fighting on all fronts until the very end of the season and playing maximum games and winning everything that possibly can. That is obviously the scenario that every fan wants. Why would you be in this competition? Why would you bother qualifying if it isn't? However, I don't see that being a negative in terms of the weekend. I don't think there's going to be a hangover if Villa were to lose to PSG. Be knocked out. So for that reason, again, you're expecting a massive night against Newcastle, and Villa can get that win, they'll be in a really strong position to then go to the Etihad, and they'll have confidence again. That they can plough on this season and achieve everything that they want to. And that's quite a lot of things to achieve. Again, Champions League will sort itself out on Tuesday night. An FA Cup, possible silverware, and a top 5 finish. That's all on the cards for Villa within the space of weeks. We're not in February anymore. This is, mid-April. This is pretty much approaching the run-in. 6 games of the league campaign. So, yeah, super exciting. And tonight, beating Southampton felt routine, but yeah, absolutely necessary.